Hi, my name is Leandro Facchinetti and let's write some code together, shall we? What we have on the menu today is something completely different. The plan that I had up to last Friday was that I would continue working on Notestrator, but I hinted at this other crazy idea that I kind of wanted to work on, so we're going to work on that instead. And this other idea is it's a completely new project. It's going to be written in Node.js. And what it does is this. It solves a problem that I actually had. So I was doing some client work writing Reaper scripts, and I wanted the client to be able to test the scripts by installing them using Repack, which is, you don't have to know about Reaper or Reaper scripts or Repack. The main point here is that I wanted to serve some files that were my scripts, and I wanted the files to have canonical URLs that would not change, and I was versioning the files using Git. So it boils down to the same thing that you can do with GitHub. You can push things to GitHub and you will have a URL that doesn't change and that represents your file. I can show you this. So I can go to github.com/leafak/reaper, and these are my public Reaper scripts. And then let's go to this file that is like a manifest or an index of all my scripts. And for instance, we can see that this script right here has this URL. This URL doesn't change. It stays the same forever. Even when I update the Git repository with new versions of the script, this remains the same. And because it is based on the identifier for the commit. So I can always go to this URL and I will get a hold of this file, not a GitHub thing showing the file. For instance, this would be a GitHub thing showing a file. No, it's not that. It's just literally the file. And I want to have something like this with canonical URLs based on Git and everything, but I want that so that I can self-host. And that was necessary because I was doing client work, which was private. So I wanted to have an experience that was like this, but I wanted to do that without using GitHub. And I don't need a whole web interface like these. I don't need any kind of index of files in a folder. I don't need any kind of index of commits over time. I don't need any of that. So to use something like GitLab or Git, all these self-hosted options for Git hosting would be complete overkill. I would need a machine with more resources, and I would need to secure things in different ways. And it is much simpler if I could just have a single binary that I could put on the server, and I could say point to a Git repository, and it would just serve the files, and it would be aware of the Git repository, so the URLs would correspond to different points in time. And this is a deployment experience similar to what I have with Caddy server. I can put a binary that is Caddy, I can point it at a directory, and it will serve the directory. It will take care of things like HTTPS, it will take care of finding the files and making sure that you are serving them in a secure way and everything. So I want a deployment experience similar to Caddy, but I want to have this awareness that a folder is not just a bunch of static files. It needs to be aware of Git. And I tried to look for something that would solve this problem. I tried to find something like this, and the only thing I could find was this, which is relatively old. It's 9 years old, so it's no longer maintained, and it doesn't take care of HTTPS and everything, so you would need to install maybe Caddy on top of your server, and then you have two different things to manage, and you have to configure a reverse proxy of kind. So it gets complicated. I wanted a thing that I could just drop into a server. I would run that, and I could ship my Reaper scripts to my client, but potentially anything else. There is nothing Reaper specific about this. It's just the use case that sprung this idea. So that's what we have on the menu today. We are going to try to build this as fast as we can. It's just a side project that I'm doing while I'm doing Notestrator. to have a quick gain, because I think that this one will be relatively fast to develop. So I don't know exactly what to call this. So I'll go into my code folder and I will make a folder, and we have to think about a name for this, but for the working name will be git static file server. There you go. I wonder, something I forgot to search was, is there a solution that is like a caddy extension? Because I know that there exists caddy extensions, and maybe something like this already exists. Let's do a quick search, and if it exists, we'll build it anyway because it's kind of fun. But let's do a quick search. Can I find filters and modules? If I say git, doesn't filter. That's fine. I will look for git on the page. I guess because everything is on GitHub, then everything matches. Oh no. Okay. Oh no, that was DigitalOcean. It also matches. Okay. Git static. No. So yeah, let's build this. As far as I can tell from my brief search, this does not exist. So we'll create it. And I'll start Visual Studio Code in the git static file server directory. By the way, if you are watching this and you have a better name, please suggest a better name for this project. So let's get started. And how about we start without TypeScript? We start with just plain JavaScript. So we'll need some packages to begin with. This will be a web server, so I'll need Express, and I already know that I need a Git library. I need to be able to fetch the fetch some files from a Git repository, and I was doing some brief research on npm libraries that would allow me to work with Git, and it seems like there is one that is super popular. It is called Git Simple. I think it's this one, and it has like millions of downloads. Yeah. And the way that this one works, so there are plenty of libraries because there are different ways that they work. And this one works by just calling Git on the command line. And there are other options that try to implement Git itself. And there is a cool trade-off here. If we use something that implements Git itself, it's usually more cumbersome to install and configure and set up. But then there are no external dependencies. While if we use this library, then there is an external dependency. You have to have Git installed. But most developers have Git installed on their machines, so it's not an issue. And on servers, I just spun up a DigitalOcean server, and it also had Git installed. And it's such a simple use of Git, and I think that this library is probably the easiest to use. So we'll go with simple Git for now. And well, I know that I will want some development stuff as well. So I know that I will need caxa to package this, and I know that I also want, so caxa, if you don't know, it's a package that I developed that allows you to compile a Node.js project into a single file, an executable that you can ship to the server, and gives you the same deployment experience as Caddy or any other Go-based web server. So I am also interested in small tech auto encrypt, which is this super niche library. It's not downloaded millions of times a week. It is downloaded 40 times a week, so it's not super popular, but it's awesome. And what it does is it takes care of HTTPS. It takes care of going to Let's Encrypt and getting a certificate and everything. And that's what we're gonna use in production. Oh, and I'm now using PowerShell because I'm on Windows today. And I'm not too good with PowerShell. I don't know much about PowerShell, so let's see if this works. Seems like at least the first command will work. So while that is running and the packages are installing, how about we start an index.js file that will be our server? And it seems like there was an error. Oh no, that was the previous invocation. So let's start with express. And I'm wondering if I should start with import and use ECMAScript modules. But you know what? I think I'm going to keep this as simple as I can. And how do I use simple git? It's going to be my first time actually using simple git. And then we need to think about what we want the routes to look like. I can see two options. One is the path itself has a reference to the commit. And I like how explicit this feels. Alternatively, we could have something that is like blah 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 your URL path to file, no head here, and by default it would go to head. And then we could also have something like maybe question mark reference equals, and then we would pass a query parameter that would be the root, the commit, or the reference to the git commit that you want to serve from. And the advantage of doing this is that if you are doing things on head, you don't have a special path. Another way I think this project may be useful is if you have a static file server, you maybe have a static website that you are serving, and you may want to serve multiple branches. Maybe you are iterating on a design with someone else, maybe a client or a designer, and you want to point these people to different branches and let them look at the website in different versions. So they could have just localhost 3000 path to file, and that would be like the head, the canonical version, but you could also put question mark and then another reference and go there. And this way the paths don't change. So if your app depends on paths, as long as it carries through the query parameters, then maybe a query parameter would be advantageous. But you know what? I think I'm going to keep this design because it is simpler. So we will create an app, or you know what? One way that I think that maybe people will want to use this is as a sort of middleware that they mount on top of things. So how about I don't just start the app? How about I instead have a function that I will export? So and I will call this the git static file server, which will be a function. And then I'm probably going to need some parameters, but the point here is that you can import this file and you will get this function that you can call, and you can mount this middleware however you want. But for our purposes of testing, we do want to run this as we do want to create an app and run it. So I could copy from my previous projects, but I'm going to try to do everything based on just documentation and try to not copy and paste too much. So is there a way for me to check that this is being imported versus being actually called on the command line? Yes, there is. So required versus executed. And I think it's something like require.main or something that I need to check. Check if file is being required versus executed. Yeah, it's require.main equals module, whatever. So if I am being executed, then I will want to behave in a special way. Oh no, installation failed. This is a problem related to network connectivity. So I am able to stream to YouTube, so I know that my network is working fine. It is probably npm or somewhere in between that the thing failed. So it seems like the dependency is installed just fine, but caxa or auto encrypt failed to install. Let's just try that again. Hope for the best. So yeah, if this is a file that I'm executing as opposed to requiring, then I will say that I want to call my function and that I want to listen. And I suppose I will listen on a port that is like 4000. No host name, no nothing. Just like that. So everything installed this time. Yep, we are off to the races. And over here, I need to return an Express app. So let's just do that right now. Return Express. And then I should be able to say node dot to run this file. I see no output on the command line. Oh no, this is not defined. Firewall, allow to communicate with private networks, public networks. Yeah, I think that's what I want. There you go. Let's go to localhost 4000 and I get an error saying that this page doesn't exist, but that's fine. That's intentional. So how about to test this out, we are going to use as the Git repository that we are serving, we are going to use ourselves. Very recursive. So we're going to initialize a repository here and we are going to commit some files. But we are not going to commit node modules. So how about we add a file called git ignore. Trying to build everything here from first principles. Ideally, I would probably copy and paste a git ignore from another project. This is me trying to build a web app as fast as I can. So now we have a Git repository that we can look at. So let's say that this is our app and that this is going to be returned at the end. And let's make a root. So we will only ever serve static files. So we are only going to do GET requests. And they are always going to have a certain shape. They are always going to be a reference. I think that's how Git calls this parameter, a reference. And then the rest of the path. So this is a kind of path that I don't typically write. Something that is so dynamic. So let me see. Specifically, this is so dynamic because there may be slashes here. So maybe I could do something like this, but I don't know if this is going to work because there may be slashes here in path, and I'm afraid that this root may not match. We'll see. What I'm going to do is just end without any response, but I'm also going to console log the request path. No, the request param No. Params. And then reference. And similarly for the path. And then this is not going to match, so I don't expect this to be there to do anything. But if I say head index.js, then that matches, that's fine. But what if I have nested folders like A, B, C? Yeah, then that doesn't match. That's what I was afraid of. I think I will need something like a regular expression here. Basic routing. Well, this is very basic routing. Maybe more examples. No, I guess I'll have to go to the API reference and probably to something like application get. The path may be one off. A string, no, because my path is not the same every time. A path pattern, that's what I've tried, but it doesn't allow the slashes to be there. A regular expression pattern to match paths. I think I will need that. And an array of combinations of any of the above. Well, we don't need that. So let's see, a path pattern. Well, not quite. And the problem here is that I'm not sure how I will get a hold of the path, and I don't know if I can even, because the way I'm doing it right here with reference, I can get a hold of the reference, but if I just use a regular expression here, then I will not get a hold of that with a name. Let's Google this real quick. Express regular, or maybe even what is it called? Pattern, path pattern with a slash. And this is optional trailing slash, not what I want. Well, yeah, so I guess I could have multiple of the dummies or multiple of the paths. So I guess it would be something like path parts. And I need at least one, or maybe not for index. Yeah, so maybe not. I always like to put the tab that I'm working on, the app that I'm working on, as the first tab. So now this matched, but it matched with just the first part, which is crazy. It is ignoring the BC and the index.js. So, I don't know. Yeah, I guess that the way to go is with a regular expression, right? Or maybe not quite. What if I just do this? Then path parts will be nil. Okay, well, what was I even trying with this? Well, I guess I want to console log. I guess at this point path, right? And I think that I will have a slash reference, a slash head and everything in here. Yeah, I do. So maybe the way to go is to have a reference, and then define a variable called path, which is not great, but it's what we are gonna have. And path will be the rec path, and we'll slice this part out. And then I should print this variable. And there you go, we have our path. Not sure that this is the best way to do it, but it's one way to do it. What if I don't have anything in here, just have two slashes in a row? Then it doesn't match. Okay, that's fine behavior. What if I have dot dot? Then that's also okay. It removed the dot dot automatically, it seems. And then it removed the dot dot automatically, and then this became my reference. The A became my reference. So I guess that's what I'm gonna do instead for testing. So yeah, this is not awesome, but it's good. What do we want to do next? Well, I guess we need to use simple git to get a hold of the file. I remember finding something that was useful when I was skimming this. Oh yeah, show. Show I think is the one that I want. So let's use that. Console log, or at this point we can just res send, and I suppose that this will be asynchronous, so I will make this async because I'm pretty sure I have to await, because it will be IO. It will need to go to the disk to fetch the file. So we can say simple git dot show. No, it's not that simple. How do we use simple git? Well, I have to call simple git, and I suppose I will have to call simple git passing along the directory that I want to serve. Base dir, yeah. So how about I receive this as a parameter, because my git static file server will want to change the directory that I'm looking at. And how about I give you complete power and I just let you give me a simple git configuration? How about that? Or maybe even I let you give me an instance of simple git. Would that be advantageous? I don't really see an advantage to letting you give me a simple git instance. It's just more configuration. So I guess I will go with you pass me a simple git configuration, or options. How do they call it? Simple git options. So simple git options. And I will create my simple git, what do they call it, instance? I will call git. And this will be simple git with simple git options. Next, we are calling git dot show. And of course here when we are calling this, now we need to pass the options, and the base dir will be their name. So it will pick up this directory name, so we'll continue to use our own Git repository for testing. And then I can call git show, and I need to pass. So yeah, I was right that all the operations need to say await. And then we will say show. So how do we do this on the command line? Let's do this tangent real quick. So I have git installed here on the command line, and I can use git show head index.js just like that, and it gives me the git version of that, not the current version, not the working directory version. So that's what I want to call. So I guess I want to call with an array of options, and in particular this array of options will be reference column path. Let's start this node app, and here we don't see much. That's interesting. Site can't be reached. Oh, it failed. Oh, okay. So the problem here is that the file does not really exist, and that crashed the whole thing. I mean, it crashed the whole. That's funny. It crashed the whole Express app. It crashed the whole app. The reason for this is that this is asynchronous, so the error happened in... so there's this error handling mechanism in Express that is really outdated, and if you have something asynchronous, you have to make sure that you will do a try catch and that you get the exception, call next. So there is a third option here that we can pass a third parameter called next, and we need to call next with an error as opposed to just throwing an exception. But I have a package that allows me to wrap this whole shenanigans, and I'm going to use it now. And there are plenty of packages that solve this problem, but mine is good because for maybe we will want to introduce TypeScript in the future, and if we introduce TypeScript, then my package gets types right while others get the types wrong, and also mine does not introduce any magic to it doesn't try to change the internals of Express or anything, which is something that some packages try to patch Express, and it's like too much magic for me. So how about we put the right name and install this little guy, and then we can say async handler. I think that's how you call this. Am I right? Yes, async handler. There you go. So we can just simply wrap this anonymous function with async handler, and it will do all the error handling for us. So now when we restart the app, there you go. At least now it's not crashing the whole app. It's just showing an error. But of course we want to treat this error somehow. So maybe what we want is to do a try catch after all. Yeah, let's do it like this. I will try to send. Oh, and the cool thing is that it is sending the error to the user, which is kind of nice. But if I get an error, then my async handler thing under the hood, what it's doing is it's calling next with error. But if I don't call next with error, if I just call next, then I'm completely ignoring the error. I guess I'll console error the error, at least so I can see it for now. So let's restart the app. come here, and then I get a proper error, like a 404 kind of error, saying that the file just doesn't exist, which is fine. And then over here, I'm printing this, and it says git error fatal path does not exist in head. How about this? Can I inspect the error message? And I guess I will also do a JSON stringify of the error. That's better than just looking at the message. And I'll pass null and 2 so it pre-prints the output. Oh, okay, so I'm getting the error every time, and it says task and blah blah blah. So it seems like this object doesn't have a lot of information about the error itself. I wish there was like a error code that I could check, but it seems like that is not there. So how about I just look at the message, and it says path does not exist in. So I guess I will look at this message. No, it goes like this, match with a string. So now I am getting a match. So if the error is because of something else, like maybe the reference doesn't exist, I still get something. The same error actually. So what I can do is, if the message matches this, then just call next. Otherwise, call next with error, like this. So now the intent here is, if the message has to do with something that is like a 404, I go to the next handler, which doesn't exist, so I get a default 404. On the other hand, if the error is not because of the file not existing or the branch not existing, if the error has to do with something else, then I will show that error to the user. I will error with that exception. And because I am using a try-catch, I guess I could write it like this. I don't actually need my async handler library anymore. Because I'm being explicit, so I guess the fewer... I'm being explicit about the try-catch, so I guess the fewer dependencies, the better. Yeah, I think I like this. I like it this way. Why does it take so long to remove a package? Probably because it's trying to resolve dependencies and see if any other dependencies use this dependency and whatnot. Okay, so we have something that kind of works. I think it would be kind of nice to also have a better 404 message than the default. So I'll just do a request response and res send. Well, what am I gonna do? I'm probably gonna say like file not found or whatever. So I guess I'll just go with the default. Oh no, it's still removing. Okay, it finished. Invalid object name. Oh, so that's a different error message. If the error message matches that, or the error message matches this. So apparently there are two error messages. One for when the branch doesn't exist, and I guess it goes first. So when the reference doesn't exist, or when the file does not exist in the reference. So in those cases, we just go to the next route and we treat that as a 404. All right. There you go. This doesn't seem like code. Is this trying to create some sort of HTML around the thing? It seems to be. So now I have to get the MIME type of this. It probably has to do with the MIME type. So let me go to the network tab and look at this and look at the headers. It's probably gonna say text HTML, but that's not HTML. How about we do some MIME detection based on file extension? I don't know if there is something to do this. I'm pretty sure there is, but I don't know a package that does this. So Node.js, MIME extension, something like that. MIME types, MIME, whatever. This is downloaded a lot. A comprehensive compact MIME type module. Look up, get type, quick start, get type. That's exactly what I need. Let's see this other one. This is also installed a lot. It's similar to that, except no fallbacks. Instead of naively returning the first available type, MIME types returns false. So do blah 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 blah. Is there something in Express that will do that for me? Yeah, so that's not too bad. I guess I could use the extension like that. I guess it's probably doing using MIME under the hood. Oh, there you go. I can use an extension just like that. Awesome. So how about I get the file extension and pass that right before send. I'll pass type. Is there a content type? Content type looks better than this. No, it really is type. Okay, so type, and I will need a file extension. So let's go to Google and Node.js file extension. Text name, there you go. And I guess now I should rename this variable because it is going to conflict. I'm going to import the path library. So just call this the file. And I will import path. I always like to keep the Node.js stuff first and then my libraries. So now we can say over here the path ext name, return the extension of the path from the last dot to the end of the string in the last portion. Okay, so if there is no dot, then it returns an empty string. We have to check the error cases in that situation, but let's just go with that for now. And save. It's still not working. It is still giving me. So I want a .js file, so that I don't want the content type to be text HTML. I want it to be something more JS based. So let's see what we can do here. Let's import path. So let's do this line. And let's do ext name of something like this. That gets it right. And then But if I don't pass anything, it returns empty string. What is probably Express is using the Mime library, so I'll require Mime. And then how do I use it? I say get type. What does Express have to say about this? Sets the content type HTTP header to the MIME type as determined by the specified type. If type contains the slash character, then it sets the content type to the exact value of type. Otherwise, it's assumed to be a file extension and the MIME type is looked up in a mapping using the express serve static MIME lookup method. I am pretty sure that this guy is just the MIME library. So maybe the MIME library doesn't return anything for .js. Let's see. Look up .html to begin with. So that's fine. And for .js, application JavaScript. Okay, so it does do it does the right thing here. It's getting me a MIME type that I like. So what could be going wrong here? I'm going to start debugging by console logging stuff. Yeah, I'm getting .js, that is all good, and I'm calling type with .js. So I mean, shouldn't that be working? Can I get a hold of the content type of the response? Doesn't return anything, does it? Well, it returns this. Excellent. Express check content type, check response content type. Get out of the way. This is all to set the content type. It's kind of awkward to want to get the content type from the response. It doesn't really make sense. Yikes. Well, what if we hard code something real quick? Oh no, what did I do? I used a keyboard shortcut that puts my screen upside down. Awesome. Cool stuff. So I'll comment this out because I think it's the line that I should have. And I will do this. I'm still getting text HTML on the response headers. What if I am more explicit and say application JavaScript? Does that work? What is going on? Let's try this from the command line. Well, essentially this, I guess. Oh no. Can I maybe just look at the headers? No. I knew that curl came with Windows. I didn't know how to use it. So that's not gonna fly. Is there some kind of cache going on? Let's look at this on a private tab. Okay, it was cache. The problem was cache. This page was being cached. So maybe I can force a disable cache kind of reload. And then I get the right file. Come on, with the right content type and everything. That's fun. Cache. Come on. Well, it's even saying 304 not modified. Okay. Oh, and I guess it makes sense when we eventually get this right, because when we get this right, you will not need to fetch this again. You can cache this file because this file is immutable. This whole path is immutable. Okay, so we are getting the right content type. Let me reread this. So I need the path because I need it to get the extension, and then I call express and simple get, and then here I instantiate express and simple get. I have a single root that I have to do this shenanigans to get the file from here. But that's okay, it's not too bad. Then I say that the type here, so we have to check what happens if there is no extension and if the extension is something crazy. So we have to check these two conditions still. So I'm going to put some to-dos here. To do, what happens when there is no extension? What happens when there is a crazy extension for which no Mime type exists? And then we send, and then we await to show this. I wonder if there is any kind of security implication by what I'm doing here, by concatenating strings and whatnot, but I think it will be okay because we are limited to the Git repository here, so there is no way for you to jump up and try to see system files like your passwords or something. Okay, so catch the error if these are the errors that we kind of expect if your reference doesn't exist, or if your file does not exist. Then I treat that as a 404, or otherwise I emit the error to the user, and that's my app. Okay. I wonder if there is a way to simplify this part. So express wildcard root. No, nothing. The name of the root parameters. Okay, but that's okay. The name of the root parameters need to have a certain format, but I was thinking about the value that will match to the parameter, but that's okay. Oh, to have more control over the exact string that can be matched by a root parameter, you can append a regular expression in parentheses. Okay. So I really like that. So we can have something like file that will match anything. And then we don't need to do this. And anywhere where we have file, we'll do instead rec params file. Does that still work? No, it does not work. Oh, it seems like the root is not even matching. Okay, so let me revert this and maybe I will commit what I have that is working, which is this. I will commit what I have that is working and then I'll continue making changes. Continue. Get out of the way. Okay, it seems like this page is worth looking at. At this point, this is not worth looking at. That's not worth looking at. Whatever. I'm not using Mime directly. We already did everything we needed from simple git, but it may be worth taking a look at the rest of the README to see if there's something else we can improve. We already solved that. Okay, someone is saying that this should work. So let's give it a try. Rec params file. Ah, that works. Okay. Well, but then again, what if we have a full path? Like this. Or a more nested path. Then it doesn't match. what is going on? Let's print the whole params stuff. Ah, okay. So there is this special 0 thing. And it's probably positional and has nothing to do with the fact that I had file over there. Yep. So I can just say like file equals rack params 0. Yeah, it kind of matched, but there is no way for us to tell. So I'll console log file real quick, because there is no folder here in our Git directory. I mean, there is node modules, but we are ignoring that one. So there is no way for me to really test a root that has some slashes in there. I can test that it's getting there with the right argument. So it will work. Okay, I think that is already better than what I had. Now for the extra cherry on top, I would like to be able to name that guy. Oh, okay. So that is the problem that I was having before. I wanted to name the guy, so I put something like this in parens. But that didn't work, and it says that the star character in regular expressions is not interpreted in the usual way. As a workaround, use that. It will likely be fixed in Express 5. No guarantees. So instead, what we want to do is this. And then we don't need that. And we can come back here and do rack params file. And I will also need to console log this out. I'll console log the whole rack params. Oh, it's not matching the root. So maybe the star was the problem. Let's try plus. Yeah, it's not matching the root. Doesn't seem to work. That's weird. Oh, what? Oh no, I thought that the regular expressions had a special meaning for dot, but that's not the case. I don't know. The dot should match anything. But you know what? It didn't work. That's fine. I guess I'll just take this rest parameter as it is. I have another to do here. What happens with just slash reference? What if you give me just that? I think it will match because the star stands for anything at all, including nothing. And what happens then? So yeah, let's figure this out. First, let's see what happens when there is no extension. But these all need to be files that exist, actually. I want to actually get some results. So let's commit some files. Maybe to another temporary directory, maybe here. Yeah, I guess I'll just do a example folder. And in there I will have a file with no extension, and I will have a file with a crazy extension. And I want these files to have some content to check that I really got to the right place. So no extension, a crazy extension. And let's commit everything we have. So now we run the server and we go to head slash this. It downloaded, okay. But it got the file, I guess. And it went with application octet stream. Okay, I'm okay with that. And how about this one? That one was also application octet stream. So I'm okay with that. You download files if you don't know extensions, but HTML, JavaScript, CSS, images, they will all work. I go to my downloads folder and remove these files. And we'll also see everything else that is in there. Well, nothing too embarrassing, I suppose. Yeah, I'm done trying to find more stuff to simplify. Just out of curiosity, I think that this is also Express based, so let's see if they have something like that. No, it's not Express based. Wow. There is not even HTTP here? What's going on? Root. And then some response. Yeah, that's very low level. How are they doing this? Root is just a function. Yeah. This is just something that you can mount on a plain HTTP server from Node, I guess. Okay, cool stuff. How about I remove this directory? It has filled its purpose. What happens when there is no extension? That's fine. What happens when there is a crazy extension for which no MIME type exists? That's fine. What happens when there is just a slash reference? What? That's weird. What happens on the command line when I say git show? Oh, okay. Yeah, so I get this. And was that what I got in my downloads folder? Where is my downloads folder? Documents, documents, 2 documents. That's fun. So what happens when I go to just /head? Okay, so it seems like it downloaded the previous file. Because just head is not found. But if I say /head, like so, it downloads something. Let's see what that download looks like. Yeah, I don't want that. So I suppose I will have to check if file. What is file anyway? Let's console log file. But I will JSON stringify this. Empty string. So what I can do is right after I take the file, I can say if file trim is empty, return next, which is essentially a 404. That's what I mean. And that's what's gonna happen when there is just a reference. So now that I did this, I can come back here and I won't be able to produce a download to file. Awesome. Let me go to my downloads folder and get rid of those downloads. Is there anything else I want to do? Of course, there's a lot of things that I want to do. So I promised that I would give you an executable that you can just drop into your server, point it at some folder, and it will serve that folder for you. So how about in this last 10 minutes I compile this into an executable binary and I make the whole binary part of it work. So first I will turn this into a binary by putting usr bin env node in here. And I'm not sure that this works in Windows, but I suppose it should. It doesn't, but that's fine. So now we made this file executable, and we probably want to get this directory name from the command line. So how about we say process argv at position 1. Well, argv0 is node, argv1 is the program name, so argv2 is probably what we want. Otherwise, we'll just get the dir name by default. So now I can say this, and this will serve. You know what could be fun if we expanded the path. or resolved the path. I think that's the language used in Node. So resolved path. Or even base dir. Then we can just do it like this. Then we can say path resolve of that. But you know what could be fun? If we set that the git static file server running at port 4000 serving base dir Cool. And then on the command line, we can tell it to serve another directory. And what if the directory doesn't exist? Then it fails. Awesome. Which is a file that exists on my machine. That's the source code for my other project called Caxa that we are about to use right now. Isn't that a cool reference? And then when serving, let's try this out actually. When serving Caxa, I can do something like readme md, and I get a hold of the readme. Awesome. And let's try another commit just in case. I mean, head is working, but is something else working? Something that is not head? Let's look at the git log, get another commit or branch or whatever, and try that out. So if I put a commit instead of head, that works. And if I put just a part of a commit, it also works. Awesome. I'll save this to read later off stream, and I'll see if there's something that catches my attention as something that we may want to change. But now let us produce a static binary that we can just ship to a Windows server in this case. So what I can do is call caxa with help, and that will give me a command line that I can copy and paste. Guess I'm going to put this in a buffer so I can start playing with this. And maybe I can put it in the package JSON under scripts. We'll have a build script, for instance. Our input will be this folder. Our output will be using backslashes to escape will be git static file server.exe because we are on Windows. And then what command do we want to run? Using backslashes we'll run node just like that. Then we can npm run build. And that may take a while, but it's processing a lot of files, moving files around and everything. But I think it will produce the git static file server.exe, which is something that I can just give to anyone using Windows, and they will be able to run and serve their own Git folders as static files. And then maybe next time we work on this, Oh, there you go. Here is the .exe. So next time we work on this, we may want to do a GitHub Actions configuration that will compile this for all three major platforms, macOS, Windows, and Linux. So this is over. How about we take this somewhere else? Is this how you open a folder in Explorer? Yes, it is. So now let's take this git static file server and put it in our code folder. So now we are simulating a state where we have just an executable that was dropped into a server somewhere. And then you would run. Let's serve maybe our Notistrator app. And this will also take a while on the first run, and it will ask me for permissions as well. It's funny that it seems like the secure thing is the opposite from the default. That's weird. That's okay. So now it is running. There you go. It is serving Notistrator. Let's go to a browser somewhere. Had readme markdown, and it doesn't exist, but that's fine. I think index.js exists. No. What do we have in the Notistrator folder? We have main.js. That's fine. Excellent. Let me commit what we have. Now also create a GitHub directory for this, a GitHub repository for this. So now you all can go see the beautiful code that we wrote together today. Oh no, I need to sign in. Come on. Authorize. You know what? This is gonna happen later. Thank you all for watching. I hope you had fun. I hope you learned something today. We are not going to continue working on this tomorrow. Tomorrow I am a guest at the IDQD Sound channel, and we'll be talking about mathematics and EQ as in equalizers, and it will be a lot of fun. We'll talk about some deep stuff. On Wednesday, it will be the opposite. IDQD, so Aria from IDQD Sound will be over here, and we'll not talk about programming. We will talk about music production. So we'll talk about microphones, we'll talk about recording stuff, and that will be fun. Then on Thursday, I got back to the Notistrator app. So I'm kind of doing this as a one-off. It kind of works now. It's only a matter of packaging and configuring things. So I just abandoned this experiment for now. It was kind of fun. It kind of works, does its thing. And I'll get back to Notistrator. At least I have a working prototype. If I need to deploy this to a customer again, I don't have any more client work that needs Reaper scripts that motivated this whole endeavor. But if I do, I have something that at least I can pack it locally, the same way I did it right now on Windows. I can do it on Linux, and I can ship this to a DigitalOcean machine somewhere, and I can serve my files for my client next time. So in any case, I will work on this in the future. I don't know when, but I'll let you know. For now, I am going to get back to Notistrator on Thursday, but check me out tomorrow on IDQD Sound, and then check back here on Wednesday for a crossover episode in which we'll talk about microphones. It will be fun. So thank you all for watching, for supporting me, for supporting me on Patreon and PayPal, for subscribing to the channel. I hope you had fun. I see you next time. Have a good one.